Now, coming to Woodward Sports, Woodward and Main Street, the Woodward Sports Network Detroit Lions show. Let's go! Catch Gabrielle D. Phillips, Matt Broder, and Terry Foster for all the latest news on your Detroit Lions every week. Only on the Woodward Sports Network YouTube channel and woodwardsports.com.
Good morning, Woodward Sports, and happy game day. It is bright and early on a Sunday morning, and we are so happy to be here with you as the Lions prepare to take on the Falcons for their second home game of the season. They're taking them on for the first time at Ford Field since September of 2017. And you know the Lions are looking to make a turnaround here, and we'll get into all of those details throughout the show. But Dan Campbell has been talking up a big game that this is what they're made for. This is what the Lions are built for, saying that he hates losing, but I love this. This is what we're all about. We're back to reality. We're back in the mud. It's doom and gloom outside of this building. It takes all of us to win. It's going to take all three phases. This is challenge accepted. So I guess we're going to find out today if the Lions have accepted that challenge and if they can get a win against the Falcons today. How are you doing this morning?
I am wonderful.
Terry.
Hey. I think what happened with Dan Campbell was he was saying all the things, the right things to his players he's been saying for months and months and months. But what he found out prior to the Seattle game is some guys were like this. Kind of sleep, not really paying attention. So one of the things he said is we needed this. This is good. And so now I believe Dan Campbell can reach where he reaches players this week a little bit better. And I think the effort will be there and the attention to detail will be there. One other thing he said, we're not on the same page. So maybe if you're buying into what he's saying now, paying attention to things, the players and the coaches are going to be on the same page. That's very important.
Matt Broder.
100%. It's one of these games where there was so much excitement heading into that Seattle game, and the Lions ended up coming up with the loss. So now we get to welcome the Falcons to town, and they do a lot of things different than Seattle. So it's going to be a test of Dan Campbell and those coaches to be on the same page as their players and to really come out and show Ford Field that they can recover from a tough loss, a really big tough loss at the beginning of the season, and beat the Falcons, a team that seems on a similar trajectory at the Lions. A lot of people feel a similar way about that team led by Arthur Smith and Bijan Robinson, who I know we're going to talk about. It's going to be a battle at noon. Was it noon at 1 o'clock?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock, brother. This is not college, baby.
Thinking college football yesterday.
Dan Campbell even mentioned that they are very similar to them, that they're very similar to the Falcons. He said that we match up very well with them, and he believes, everyone across the league, everyone across the media is saying that as well. And I find it interesting because, the Falcons kind of have the start that we wanted the Lions to have. They have that 2-0 start, and I feel like a lot of people have jumped off the Lions bandwagon and have jumped on to the Falcons bandwagon because they have the start that everyone was hoping that the Lions were going to have. Would you guys agree?
Yeah.
Well, can I say this? I'm new to the show now. We're allowed to disagree with Dan Campbell?
Yeah.
All right. I disagree with that. That's stupid. They're not similar. Falcons have an inexperienced quarterback. The Lions have Jared Goff, who's very, very experienced. The Lions used to be able to pound the rock with Montgomery, and now they can't anymore. And Bijan is going to be able to. No, Bijan Robinson is not a pound the rock guy. He's a juker, and I'm here, no, I'm there, and you can't catch me type of guy. So I think they're very, very dissimilar. And one is 2-0, the other is 1-1.
Exactly.
Facts.
What I think.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry about that. What I think is interesting, because you did mention Jared Goff, and I think it's huge because their coach, Smith, has come out and said how highly he thinks of Goff and how he thinks that Goff does not get the credit that he deserves. He said, he was a number 1 overall pick for a reason, and people aren't giving him that credit that he deserves. And I think that speaks really highly, and it's nice to kind of see outside of the organization and outside of the Lions realm where people are obviously quite critical of Goff, and I think even in the national media, but seeing that other side of somebody who's coming from a more difficult quarterback situation over the last couple of years and saying, you know what, the grass isn't always greener on the other side, so you should enjoy what you have while you have it.
All right, can your Uncle Terry tell you something here?
Go for it.
The week before playing a team, those players on the other side are the greatest players in the world. Jared Goff is a great quarterback, and we really have to respect him. Next week he'll be a bum because then Atlanta doesn't have to play him. So they always do that. They don't want any locker room material. But I think Jared Goff needs to open up his game a little bit more. There's a reason he didn't throw any interceptions, because he seemed to be afraid to challenge defenses. Challenge them this week, and maybe you get another pick, but maybe you get 3 touchdowns. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm with you. It's unfortunately we don't want the opposing coach being the one to not underestimate Goff. We sort of wish we could slide one by him.
Yeah.
The opposing team was the ones that continue to underestimate Goff. But no, it seems that he definitely sees the talent that Goff has. But Terry, I'm with you, and I know we're going to talk a little bit more about what the offense needs to do today against the Falcons. But I think it is time for them to open up the playbook and let Jared Goff, I don't know if it's air it out's the right word, but get a little bit more aggressive. Put it down the field a little bit more.
You know what? It's not even a case of opening up the playbook. Take advantage of what's there in front of you.
Yeah.
There are a bunch of guys. I'm looking, wow, this dude's wide open up the field, and Jared Goff checked down. So obviously that wasn't his first option probably, but if you got a guy that you could hit for a touchdown, why not do it? Points are very valuable in this league.
They are. And today's game, I do want to point out, there will be some special ceremonies around today's game because they are celebrating women in football today down at Ford Field. So this Sunday, today, during the pregame, halftime, and throughout the game, the Lions will have programming that shows the team's commitment to elevating women as players, coaches, and leaders in football. And it will demonstrate how critical they are to driving this sport forward. So Antoinette Harris will be joining Danny Rogers for the Lions pregame show that you'll be able to tune into whether you're at Ford Field or on their app. And she is the first woman to receive a full college football scholarship as a skill position player. She was a four-sport college athlete, 2-time Hall of Famer, and she's currently a pro football player for the Women's National Football Conference and is an aspiring NFL analyst. So she will be joining Danny Rogers today. There's a lot of programming going on, and I think one of my favorites is they had their initial year of the girls flag football league for the Lions, and they're going to have 100 of the young women who participated in that league on the field today. But not only on the Lions side, they're also bringing 11 participants in the Atlanta Falcons girls flag football program and their coaches to be on the sideline with the Falcons. So I think overall you see that it's not just the Lions that are showing out and having the support for women in football, but also on the opposite side of the ball. And it's one of those moments where you're like, this is bigger than football. This is about a bigger cause that Sheila Hemp has been very vocal in her support of, and not only for her, but her mother and her sister and all of their connections to the league.
Yeah, no, it's an impressive initiative from the Lions, and it starts with Sheila Hamp, but we've seen it all offseason. Brad Holmes, in one of his pre-draft press conferences, was wearing a T-shirt that said, I believe it was support women and girls in sports. And I just put in the chat, I wrote an article about this, the women in football inaugural game that the Lions and Falcons, and there's just a lot of cool things they're doing around. And Antoinette Harris, Tony Harris, she's from Detroit, right? So she's coming back
Detroit
home.
native.
She gets to be on TV, working with Danny Harris. It's going to be a cool.
Danny Rogers.
Oh my! Tony Harris is going to be with Danny Rogers,
There you go.
the Lions' great reporter. So it should be a fun Saturday. Oh my word, a fun Sunday today.
All right, relax,
I'm
young man. I
losing
know
it.
you're nervous, but I want to make you even more nervous. This is chump change compared to what's being talked about in the back rooms. The NFL, the Lions and the Falcons and the other teams are considering having a women's pro league kind of sponsored by the National Football League.
Wow.
Now, it may not happen, but they're talking about this. And so so you may go to Ford Field or Wayne State or wherever they would play these games and actually see the women play professional football. And we've had professional football We've had the Renegades, other teams that have won championships. So they know there's talent here in Metro Detroit. So they want to tap on that. And one day we might be going somewhere else, not to see the Lions play, but to see the Lionesses or whatever they may call them play.
Yeah.
In a big game.
It's an interesting step forward, and I think this is obviously just one of the first steps, and we're seeing more and more women in football today. And I think it's really important that the organizations themselves take the time to recognize the figures that are a part of their organizations. Not just the faces that you see on the screens, but also the women behind the scenes, like some of the fantastic people that we've had the opportunity to meet, whether they're part of the PR team, whether they're part of the on-field team, even down to the hype squad featuring Tom Mazaway's daughter. You know, there's different opportunities for women to get involved in football, and from sitting in my seat, I think it's fantastic to see the Lions supporting that and celebrating it.
All right, Gabby, I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm going to go off script here, not that we're on a script, but if you were to play any position on the football field, if you were a professional football player, what position would you play?
I'm going to tell you right away, you're wrong. Whatever you're going to say, I already know what position she's going to play, but she's too modest to say it. But go ahead.
I think I'm going to say kicker.
Kicker?
No, I knew she was going to give us some crappy answer like that. No, you're a quarterback, girl.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was my other option, but I went the humble route.
You got to go with the position, either quarterback or middle linebacker, like Alex Anzalone.
Yes.
Your answer on episode 1. You're the director of all things here at Woodward Sports. So
thank you very much.
You power the offense or you direct the defense. You're one of those.
We try, right?
Yeah.
Can you throw her hair in a ponytail?
Yes, I can.
Then she can play linebacker. I always tell you, if you're going to win in football, you need somebody, a blonde with ponytail.
Yeah. A blonde with a ponytail. I maybe we'll feature a ponytail next episode if Anzalone has a great game against the Falcons today. But we'll be right back around. We have a great show for you today. Woodward and Main Street, your Lions Insider show. Next, we're going to get into a little comparison of, the two on everyone's lips, Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs. We're going to go into coaching staff adjustments, what they need to do going into today's game, what adjustments we want to see them make, and then we'll round it out with another round of pessimistic versus optimistic. See you soon.
Brace yourselves, Detroit. As the sun begins to set, 2 of Woodward Sports' brightest young stars will be taking the mic for a brand new show. Woodward Nights with Broder and Broder. The dog days in Detroit are over, and the boys are unleashed. Join in on the banter and hop on the bandwagon of the #1 night show on the internet. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel every weeknight from 8 to 10 p.m. Woodward Nights with Broder and Broder. Join Woodward Sports' own Jeff Iafrate, along with special WSN guests for the most anticipated Lions season in decades. Filled with different surprises and expert analysis. You're not going to want to miss out. Go to our Woodward Sports YouTube channel on Sundays and tune in live from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m.
Welcome back. This is Woodward and Main Street, your Lions Insider show here at Woodward Sports. We're so happy to be kicking off game day with you bright and early on this Sunday morning. I'm Gabrielle D. Phillips, alongside me, Matt Broder and Terry Foster. We have a lot to get into today as the Lions take on the Falcons, and one of the biggest conversations leading into this game has been the talk of Bijan Robinson versus Jahmyr Gibbs. Obviously, this is going to be a conversation that will probably follow these two around for the rest of their NFL careers, but this is the first time the two are heading off. So we're going to do a little comparison of the two, but I want to start us off with just some stats. You know, get the audience and get Woodward and Maine on the same page here.
Give it to us, Gabby.
Rush attempts, Gibbs is at 14 and Bijan is at 29. Receptions, Gibbs is at 9, Bijan is at 10. Rushing yards, Gibbs is at 59. Robinson is at 180, and yards per carry, Gibbs is at 4.2 and Robinson is at 6.2. And I think the biggest thing that I have to point out here, because a lot of people are going to talk about those rushing yards and the yards per carry, but what they're not going to talk about is the sample size. The sample size is very, very different for these two players, and the amount of time that they have been getting in their NFL games, their first NFL games of their careers. You see these coaches taking two completely different approaches with these rookies, and I think that has to be at the top of our minds when we have this conversation, comparing these two and their performances on the field thus far in weeks 1 and 2.
Yeah, they were drafted so close together. Their stories are going to stay tied together throughout their careers. But you hit it right on the nose. It's that usage. It's the snap count, and it's the touches that each one of the running backs are going to get. Atlanta is definitely committed to just feeding Bijan the ball. They actually have a two-headed monster backfield with Bijan and Tyler Algier, and even Cordarrelle Patterson coming there at number 3. He's a really talented back coming back from injury, but we've seen it. We thought Jahmyr Gibbs. We knew he wasn't the ground and pound, in between the tackles, every play type of running back, but with his explosion, with his ability to be a weapon all over the field, I know a lot of Lions fans thought they were going to see a little more out of him, see him get the ball a little more. And we saw some flashes against Kansas City. They expected it to go up a little bit against Seattle, and it kind of stayed pretty similar. So I'm looking for a big game out of Jahmyr Gibbs. I think Ben Johnson's going to get him involved a little bit more. Terry, what do you think?
Well, hopefully, but he's going to have to be creative in doing it. Mm-hmm. But before this began, didn't we know Bijan Robinson was the better running back?
Yeah.
Bijan Robinson is a number 1 guy. He is, when he's a 4 or 5 year guy, he's going to be your number 1 guy. Jahmyr Gibbs is a number 2 guy. I think he'll always be that. He'll be the guy that you do little reverses and trick plays. He's not going to be the guy that I say, okay, you ready, young fella? We're going to feed you the rock 15 times a day. We're going off tackle. That's not who he is. So if you notice what how the Lions have used him, they almost use him as the same as Amon St. Brown. They, doing not off tackle, but they're running him around, and he's been caught. He hasn't been able to elude defenders. So this game against Atlanta, he's going to have to be that guy that's going to have to carry the rock between the tackles at least 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
We'll see how he does.
And while Bijan has Tyler Algier running behind him, David Montgomery is going to miss this game for the Detroit Lions, so even more is going to fall on the back of Jahmyr Gibbs.
Definitely, and I think it's interesting because Dan Miller actually mentioned something similar this week to what you said, Terry, on Ermanni and Edwards, saying that Gibbs is still needing to become more decisive, which is something that you need to work on as a rookie, but that he's going a lot to that outside and he just needs to plant his foot and go.
Right.
But we haven't really seen that out of him yet.
Yeah, and Ben Johnson kind of hinted last week that he didn't really want to use him in a feature position yet. But now he's forced to because of injuries. So it's going to be real interesting to see what Ben Johnson can come up with creatively to get Gibbs going.
Yeah.
That's going to be a tough sell because he's got to open up the offense, and now he's got to get a rookie running back, find out creative plays. He can't do both in 1 week.
Yeah. And confidence in a running back and how you run is a real thing. And we've seen, and I know, Terry, we've seen Jahmyr Gibbs in the locker room a little bit, and his personality is starting to come out a little bit more. He's a very quiet guy. He's a smart kid, but he's very quiet. Mm-hmm. We've just seen in some interviews recently starting to open up and show his personality a little bit more. So I'm hopeful that starts to come out on the field too. Definitely. A little more confident, making his breaks, getting either between the tackles and his gap or rushing to the outside, make a decision and be decisive.
And
he knows he's got a bigger slice of the pie. That's probably why he's coming out of the shell a little bit.
That's good. I mean, now is the time. If there is a time, now is the time. This week is his week for the taking. And not to jump back into coaches on each side saying positive things about other players on the other side, but Coach Smith on Gibbs, he did say that, he's a terrific player and he's a speed guy, and that Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs are going to have kind of this adverse battle their entire NFL careers, and so we got to get past that a little bit. But then exactly on the other side, Campbell mentioned on Robinson that he's built like a power back, but he's also shifty. And I think that's been very clear since he started in the NFL. And, we're expecting them to feed him the ball. Right.
Bijan Robinson will bull you over, and he'll make you miss. So that's the most dangerous back that you can have in the NFL. And he's a rookie, and they've already giving him the keys to the car. Go ahead, young fella. Usually, NFL tries to ease you into it, give you, a few carries, and then give, up the workload as you keep going. From day one, they say, dude, let's go. And he can handle it.
What do you think is the better approach, though?
This to me tells all about the organization's strategy or their thoughts on the running back position. I don't know if Bijan's going to get his second contract in Atlanta. They seem like the team that's going to run him into the ground for his 5 years and then maybe reevaluate, maybe go after another running back in the draft. With the Detroit Lions, they're taking a little more conservative approach, so maybe that tells you they are going to play him more at wide receiver in the future. They're not going to run him into the ground. They want to get to that second contract. I don't know. It's interesting, and there's some interesting storylines with Bijan coming up to Detroit. Barry Sanders was his favorite running back growing up, and you think the Lions did pass on Bijan Robinson. They traded out of that spot, but they passed on him. So you got to imagine coming up to Detroit, he's got a little something to prove against this team, and Jahmyr Gibbs, his hometown team, Atlanta. He's from Atlanta, so the Falcons are coming to town. He's got a lot of eyes on him. He wants to have a big game too. So I think these two are going to go at it all day.
They will, but I don't think the Lion coaching staff is thinking about that second contract.
No.
I think what they're thinking is they don't have the confidence in Jahmyr Gibbs that the Falcons have in Bijan Robinson.
Really?
So we're gonna let it ease him in and see what he can do. They don't know. They have a pretty good idea of what he can do, but they don't have that. This is our guy field yet. So that's why you ease him in.
What would you like to see out of Gibbs today to prove to at least the fan base, maybe he hasn't done it to the coaches yet, but that he is the guy for this job?
I'm not going to tell you how many yards
Okay.
I'd like to see him get, but I will tell you yards per carry. I like to see him average 4.8, 4.9 yards per carry because I also would like to see him be able to go off tackle. I would like to see that if the Lions in a 3rd and 1 situation, they feel comfortable going to him and that they can convert that. In other words, I want to see a guy who's versatile, a guy who's a real running back at times and not just a scat back.
I have to agree with just about everything you said, Terry. I want to see him get in the end zone for a lot of those same reasons, just whether it's an explosive 50, 60-yard run or they're down closer to the end zone and they have confidence in him to give him the ball and pound it into the end zone. So whatever their strategy is, however that touchdown happens, however he breaks loose, I want to see him get in the end zone and sort of put some points on the board for this team.
Now, on the opposite side of the ball, what would scare you if you saw Robinson produce XYZ? What are you most nervous for in the game? What are you most nervous for with what he can bring to this game?
I will put a number on this one.
Okay.
I don't want to see him rushing for 130, 140 yards and 2 touchdowns because that means they're controlling the clock. That means they're dictating the game, and chances are they'll win the game because unless he fumbles a couple times. I don't think that's going to happen. If you see him putting up 135 on like 18 carries, Lions going to be in big trouble. But I'm going to put opposite spin on this a little. Last year, Saquon Barkley, they thought he's going to run all over the Lions. He didn't. They shut him down. So why not a rookie?
Terry teasing our little defensive line segment. How about another game out of Ali McNeil like he had in that Giants game when they shut down Saquon Barkley? He looked dominant. But I'm with you too. I'll go as far to say that backfield of Bijan and Tyler Algier need to stay under 130, 140 yards. As long as the Atlanta Falcons are controlling the run game, the Lions might have a problem on Sunday. In a couple hours here, they need Desmond Ridder to be the one who beats them. They need the ball in his hand, and they need him to be throwing it to Drake London and Kyle Pitts. We can't let that running game beat the Lions today.
Now, you've talked a little bit about his personality coming out. Do you think these two will get chippy toward each other? Do you think these two will have any interactions at the game? Will they do a little jersey swap friendly situation at the end of the game? How do you think these two will behave towards each other out
I
on
can
Ford
see
Field?
the jersey swap.
Okay.
But not the chirping.
Yeah.
Because guys will always say, and I'm sure they'll say this, I didn't play against him.
Yeah.
He was on the sideline when I was playing.
Yeah.
So I think this is mostly a creation in the media that, Bijan versus Mir. Oh, my goodness, this is Jameer. So this is going to be but I don't think they look at it like that way.
Yeah.
I think they look at, I got a job to do, and he's not tackling me. So I don't give a damn what he says or what he does or whatever. So nip it in the bud.
Would you like to see a jersey swap, Broder?
I don't really care about
No.
the jersey swaps. Yeah, they might dap each other up at the beginning of the game. They're friends. I think they go back a little bit, but again, they're not going to be on the same field at the same time. They're not going to be on the field at the same time. So their interactions will probably be after the game. They'll do a jersey swap, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
know I'd
being
do one
taken
with
so
you.
high.
Yeah.
If we were playing.
You would? How kind?
Yeah.
How
But
kind?
you got to sign it.
I got you. I
and
got
then
you.
are you going to sell it?
I'm not selling.
No. You're just
No.
keeping a memento.
Did you say, who didn't do a jersey swap in Game 1 against Kansas City? It was Brian Branch, because his jersey ended up in the Hall of Fame. I don't
Yes,
know if
it
you saw
did.
that. I know we don't have a graphic today, but you just got me thinking about those jerseys. Imagine your first jersey you ever wore was already in the Hall of Fame. Awesome.
That's a lot to live up to throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah.
A lot to live up to. But we have a lot to live up to in this next segment after, a great first half of the show. We're going to get into the coaching staff adjustments and what we want to see out on the field today from Aaron Glenn, Dan Campbell, Ben Johnson. Get ready to be in the chat. We want to hear from you what you're looking to see from those coaches today, and we will be right back.
Woodward Sports' own Tom Mazaway and Sam Stick Day will be hosting our Lions postgame show after every Lions game all season long. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel for his hot-off-the-press takes, game analysis, and Kool-Aid sipping celebrations. You won't want to miss it. Join Maz, Stick, and special guests each week immediately following every Lions game, exclusively on the WSN YouTube channel. Brace yourselves, Detroit. As the sun begins to set, two of Woodward Sports' brightest young stars will be taking the mic for a brand new show. Woodward Nights with Broder and Broder. The dog days in Detroit are over, and the boys are unleashed. Join in on the banter and hop on the bandwagon of the #1 night show on the internet. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel every weeknight from 8 to 10 p.m. Woodward Nights with Broder and Broder.
Welcome back. This is Woodward and Main Street, your Lions Insider show here at Woodward Sports. We're so glad you are kicking off your game day with us. And I'm here alongside Matt Broder and Terry Foster, two of our Lions Insiders at the network. And we just want to make sure that you are the most well-prepared Lions fan there is going into this game day. But before we get into this coaching conversation, I've realized that there may be some confusion with our name, because if you're listening to us, you're like, okay, Woodward and Main Street, M-A-I-N Street. No. We have a little fun action going on here. Wordsmith to my left, Matt Broder, came up with a great idea to have a play on Maine and have M-A-I-N Street.
No.
M-A-I-N-E. I'm even screwing it up.
M-A-N-E.
M-A-N-E.
So how are we going to teach people when we don't know?
We don't even know. I mean, I'm already screwing it up. I'm getting the two confused. M-A-N-E Street, Maine, as in Lions, Maine.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. That's the name.
100%. This is Woodward Sports. We're right at the intersection of our Woodward Sports Network and our Lions coverage.
Yes.
There are three insiders here at the Woodward Sports Network. So we're here just bringing you all that Lions coverage, the Lions Maine, everything
Lions
surrounding
M-A-N-E.
a Lions. Yes.
There we go. Now I
M-A-N-E.
got it. Now I'm getting on board with the rest of the show.
Yeah.
So there you have it. How to, cover that off, because I realized we're a few episodes in and we never really touched on,
Maybe people don't
the
know
reason
that
behind
hair
the
on the line is called a mane.
maybe they don't.
Now they do.
You learn something new every day, right, Terry?
True.
Every day. And I want to learn what you guys think Aaron Glenn is going to do going into week 3 to make some changes on that defensive line. What needs to happen? What does Aaron Glenn need to do?
Yeah, I'll tell you what he needs to do. He needs to bring back Big Pooh. Big Pooh is Isaiah Buggs. I don't understand why he's not playing. Something is up. He either missed some team meetings, or maybe he just got fat, and I don't know about it. Maybe he got, they list him at 335. Maybe he's 395 and can't move. But I just know this guy can play. Dan Campbell said, well, the reason he's not playing is because of the film. What film? The film in practice? Give me a break. That's baloney there. This guy was good against Green Bay. He was good on the field last season when the Lions were going 8-2 down the stretch. So I don't want to hear about, well, the film this year in practice doesn't measure up. No. There's something else going on, and play the man or tell us what the truth is.
Yeah, he signed an extension in the offseason. He got a new contract with the Lions, and then all of a sudden he's not playing. It does appear that he will be playing today. He showed on his Instagram like late Thursday night that it seemed he was hinting that he would be on the field. But you were 100% right. They need to play him, and maybe even Broderick Martin, put him on the active roster. Pressure up the middle is what the team has been lacking. Aiden Hutchinson, they've been getting towards the quarterback, although there hasn't been a sack from the defensive line yet. Alex Anzalone had one right at the end of the Seattle game. Aiden Hutchinson's getting there, but these quarterbacks are able to escape the pocket, to elude the pressure that they're getting up the middle. Whether it's Patrick Mahomes or Geno Smith, they've been able to escape that pressure. And so we need that up the middle. We need a Lee McNeil. We need Buggs. We need Benito Jones to show up. That's what maybe needs to be the biggest change. I know Aaron Glenn, there are a few different adjustments he can make, but making sure that defensive line is schemed correctly, is creative, that they're finding ways to put Aiden all over the line, to put him in a place to be successful. Aaron Glenn needs to address that situation for sure.
Because Aiden Hutchinson is doing his job. But the thing is, with the defensive line, it's supposed to be team concept. So when Aiden Hutchinson chased Geno Smith, and Geno's like, this dude is on my ass here, let me spin around. There's supposed to be somebody right there that said, no, bro, you ain't going anywhere. But what he did is he would spin around, go back to the middle, and he would create another 3 or 4 seconds, like, let me look over the field. Oh, okay, let me just hit a receiver. He didn't have to run because there was no up-the-middle pressure from him, and that was the main thing. Big Pooh back in the starting lineup, or at least Big Pooh on the field sometime.
Yeah.
You're going to eliminate all that.
That's what we need to see.
Yeah.
That's what the defense needs to make happen this game to take on the Falcons. Now, that I think is the biggest question mark for fans, but obviously the turnovers were not great either. So what needs to happen in order to fix that turnover rate from last game?
Ball security, but once again, the turnovers may have been what Dan Campbell was talking about. We're not on the same page, and it may have been a lack of focus just for a split second, and that's going to create turnovers. I think, once again, Jared Goff received pressure he wasn't accustomed to, and he threw the ball too early. I think Gibbs may have run the wrong route, so once again, not on the same page, and that created one turnover. And Montgomery just fumbled. I mean, they got the hat on the ball and knocked it out. Stuff happens.
So you're looking more to Dan Campbell for adjusting that issue from last week.
Well, he said we're not on the same page. So you have a wide receiver run the wrong route. You probably had someone on the offensive line screw up, and so Jared Goff had to throw the ball early. I know everybody's saying Nelson. So he had to throw the ball early. So once again, there's two people not on the same page, created at least one of those turnovers.
Yeah, and that was a backup right tackle, and nothing against Matt Nelson, but he was filling in for where Penei Sewell normally is, who was filling in for Taylor Decker on the left side of the line, who is out with an ankle injury. But you're right, they need to limit their turnovers on offense, and there's nothing really you can coach from a fumble perspective. They got to hang on to the ball. But on the defensive side, they need to force turnovers. That was one of the biggest plays, if not the biggest, in the Kansas City game to open the season. Brian Branch's pick 6 on Patrick Mahomes against Seattle. I don't believe they forced one turnover, and that's what they need to do. That's what the Lions thrived at. The second half of the year, Kirby Joseph had several interceptions. Aiden Hutchinson, they were forcing fumbles. it's one of those things, losing Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, CJ Gardner-Johnson, who we expected to be one of those guys that's a ball hawk, that's going to go get interceptions like he did in Philadelphia. This is now where other players need to step up. They need to go get that ball from Atlanta.
You know what, Bull Moose, you're not going to create turnovers when the opposing quarterback is back there patting the ball, saying, should I go to the left? Should I go deep? Should I go to the middle?
Facts.
Should I run? I have so many options. I don't even know what to do. But I know I'm going to kill him on one of these things. So if a quarterback has time to think, you're not going to get turnovers unless the running back turns the ball over. Because the NFL is so simple. You protect your quarterback, and then you disrupt the other quarterback, you'll win. And Geno Smith was not disrupted. Yeah, he got I disagree with people who say he didn't receive any pressure. He received pressure, but he was able to spin out of it, and the pressure was gone. So there wasn't that secondary pressure to make him get rid of the ball.
Yeah, and then the secondary got a lot of slack for that game, but you can't expect anybody in the NFL to guard a DK Metcalf, a Tyler Lockett, a Jackson Smith, and Jigbo for that long. For Geno Smith running around 5, 6, 7 seconds, it's impossible.
Yeah, 'cause you know what DK Metcalf does? He'll smoke a cigarette on the game, take a puff, tap out the ashes on top of your helmet, and then make you look stupid.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of guy he is. He's a bully out there.
That's an image to think about.
Watch the film in super slow motion. You'll see that.
He fits that in there.
Yeah. He puts it on the defensive back's helmet.
I don't know how I've missed that.
Yeah, a lot of people. Everybody missed it except me.
We just can't all keep up with you, Terry. You're able to see in hyperspeed, slow-mo.
I have Superman vision.
I mean, it's very impressive.
He's got that eye.
Now, we're hoping that Dan Campbell has that eye and that his mind is also locked in, especially when it comes to those game time decisions, those stressful decisions, and really the big decisions that we're known for him making that we already mentioned. We didn't really see from him last week. We really didn't see him step up and surprise people a lot last week in a way that he has done throughout his coaching career. What do you want to see Dan Campbell do in today's game, Matt Broder?
I want to see him have his identity from the start of the game to the end of the game. Like you just opened up, he did some things in the Kansas City game, that fake punt on 4th down. In Seattle, it seemed like he was aggressive at the beginning of the game, but then once they got into certain situations, they decided to punt. They decided to take the field goal. But then when it got down to the wire, he got ultra conservative and wanted to play to overtime. So I just want to see some consistency. If you're going to go for it every time on 4th down, go for it. But these different decisions at different times, I'm struggling to grasp what the thought process is leading into it. Terry, can you understand what Dan Campbell's thinking going into this?
Absolutely not. But I will say this: go for the jugular.
Yeah.
When you had the ball at the 50-yard line and it was like a minute 50 seconds, you shouldn't be thinking about, well, I don't want to give the other team the ball. You should be thinking, we need to score by any means necessary and take this lead, and then we'll worry about that later. But he was so bent on, okay, we want to make sure that when we kick this field goal, there's only 2 seconds left, there's no time left on the clock. I'm thinking, screw that. Man, we at the 50, we're supposed to score a touchdown. And they did not do the things to score a touchdown.
And at that time, he had all 3 timeouts, too.
Right. You could have finagled that clock any way you wanted. You were in charge, but you let Seattle be in charge.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
We've talked about Dan Campbell's identity, but we've also spoken to the shift in Ben Johnson's identity in this last game and how he looked a lot different than fans are used to seeing him behave, and the decisions that he's making and kind of what he's scheming up really changed from week 1 to week 2. So now what needs to change from week 2 to week 3? Terry?
Well, either Ben Johnson scaled things back or Jared Goff refused to go upfield. Now, there were opportunities. I mean, there was guys open, and Jared Goff didn't go there. And from my understanding, that was his 3rd option. Make that your first option. I didn't think Seattle's secondary was particularly strong. In fact, I read some stuff. The Seahawks are getting ripped because their secondary sucks. So what those people saw, there were opportunities there. I'm talking about wide open opportunities. Jared Goff decided, let me check down. Be who you are. Ben Johnson's been an aggressive guy in the past. Jared Goff may not be the most aggressive dude in the world, but if it's there, take advantage of it. If it's there, take that chance. If it's there, the thing I've always said about Dan Campbell is he can't be the guy that just, okay, I'm going to punt every time, we have the ball when it's fourth down. I'm going to kick the field goal every time that we have a field goal opportunity. No, he's got to mix it up. And he didn't mix it up enough in my mind. But the most egregious thing is when you are in charge at the end, you go, ooh, I'm going to be the little church mouse, scared church mouse. I don't want to give these guys 2 seconds on the clock or anything. So be yourself. How about that?
Yeah, and Terry, there's nothing wrong with a pass down the field, an incomplete pass down the field. Taking those shots, especially earlier in the game, that opens up that defense. It opens up the middle of the field, too, for Jahmyr Gibbs and Craig Reynolds and Zonovan Knight to have a little more space out of the backfield. Without David Montgomery, Ben Johnson isn't going to be able to run that ground and pound offense. So take some shots. And Jared Goff, he's a little underrated with the deep pass. I know since he got into the league, his first year starting in 2017, he's in second place for completion percentage for 20 yards for passes 20 yards downfield. He's right behind Tom Brady and right ahead of Patrick Mahomes. So he can throw that ball. He's accurate. I just want to see them take some more shots, whether they're successful or not, which I think they will be successful, even if it's Amon-Ra St. Brown or Khalif Raymond on those routes. Send them. It opens up everything. It's going to open up that run game in a way that's different than what you would normally be able to do with David Montgomery.
I'm gonna simplify this.
Simplify it.
Be a man. That's it. Just be a man. You back there in the pocket. It's all in front of you. There's a guy open 20 yards down the field. Don't be afraid to hit him.
So on the inaugural Women in NFL game, it's be a man.
Right.
Way to put 2 and 2 together with that.
But the women would have taken that shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you should be a woman. I don't know.
There we go. I'll take it.
Okay.
I would have taken the shot if I was a quarterback.
And you're my quarterback. I know you would have done that.
There we go.
That's my quarterback.
I'm decisive. I make decisions, and I have made the decision that we're going to end this segment here. And we will be coming back, getting into pessimistic and optimistic. This is Woodward and Main Street, your Lions Insider Show. Stick with us.
Join Woodward Sports' own Jeff Iafrate, along with special WSN guests for the most anticipated Lions season in decades. Filled with different surprises and expert analysis. You're not going to want to miss out. Go to our Woodward Sports YouTube channel on Sundays and tune in live from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m.
They were there Friday.
Woodward Sports' own Tom Mazaway and Sam Stick Day will be hosting our Lions postgame show after every Lions game all season long. Tune into the Woodward Sports YouTube channel for his hot-off-the-press takes, game analysis, and Kool-Aid sipping celebrations. You won't want to miss it. Join Maz, Stick, and special guests each week immediately following every Lions game, exclusively on the WSN YouTube channel.
Welcome back. It's game day here at Woodward Sports Network. I'm Gabrielle D. Phillips, Matt Broder, and Terry Foster here making up the other 2 of the 3 for Woodward and Main Street, your Lions Insider Show. We're excited to see what the Lions are capable of today. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see. Can they turn this thing around and make it 2-1? I'm looking for some reasons to be pessimistic today. What makes you feel pessimistic about the Lions going into today's game against the Falcons?
You know what I'm afraid of? That Dan Campbell is a second half of the season coach. That the first half, he has to figure out his team. He has to figure out what he wants to do exactly. And he's trying to get things in the right order. And he can't figure that out. So if that's the case, you might be talking about 2-5 or 2-6 start. You don't want that again because, the 1-6 start last year killed them because they won 8 out of 10 and didn't make the playoffs. What team wins 8 out of 10 games and doesn't make the playoffs?
Can't imagine many in NFL history.
Right. So But if it takes him that long to figure things out, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
My reason to be pessimistic is very similar, and it's that there's a lot of missing pieces going into this week for the Lions. And are they able to iron out this new game plan going into week 3? Is there enough time? Did they, concoct enough of a plan where they can adjust really quickly, or were they guaranteeing that those pieces were going to all be available, or that not this many would go out? And are they able to make that fast decision, or does Dan Campbell need some more time in order to make those adjustments?
Yeah. I think he said in one of his press conferences earlier this week, like they're making some decisions around these injured players, not the long-term injuries, but I'm thinking maybe the Taylor Decker type injuries, Kirby Joseph even, with 2 games coming up in the next 5 days. On Thursday, they go to Lambeau to play the Packers again. He might be holding some of those guys back in this Falcons game and saving them for the divisional game on Thursday. So he didn't say that. He didn't reveal that for sure, but they're definitely thinking about things like that, and I just hope they don't take their foot off the brake of this game. This is an important game for the city. I feel like there was a little bit of energy sucked out of the city with that loss right there at the end against Seattle. Not that they're not going to show up again and be loud for the Lions in Ford Field, but I believe this is a very important game for them to set up the rest of the season, especially with the NFC, starting out as strong as it has been.
I mean, that could be another reason to be pessimistic is the fan support going into week 3. I mean, the Lions are known to, brush it off and find that hope once again, but I think it was so much higher of hope going into their first home game, coming off of a win against Kansas City. And I think this fall down, it burns a little bit more than years past. So I'm hoping that the fans can turn around and still show out and have the same amount of energy today, but I think that'll be really hard to beat from that first home game.
I don't think they can have the same amount of energy, but they can have energy.
Yeah.
Do they still believe in this team? If they do, then there would be a high energy at Ford Field. Not what it was last week against Seattle, but they can get close to that. But if people are like, hey, you know what, same old Lions, and we just might have the same old regular home game where it's enthusiastic but not that special. And these are 4 very important games.
Very.
Not only this today, but 4 days from now on a Thursday, you got to go at it again. So we could come back next week bearing our heads saying, man, the Lions are pretty much dead. Or we could be saying, you know what? It was just a blip in the radar. Seattle was. These guys are ready to go.
So you're kind of getting into the optimistic. Give me a reason to be optimistic about the Lions taking their record to 2-1 today.
The optimistic is last week prior to the Seattle game, they got fat and sassy.
Sassy?
We're great. We're at home. Our crowd's behind us. We'll walk out here and we'll win. But then the victory didn't happen, and so now maybe this week the Lions said, you know what? Our shit don't stink. We got to pay a closer attention to detail. We got to get on the same page with our coaches, with our teammates. And so if you do that, that can lead you to have a better effort against Atlanta. And also, the coaches have to have more confidence in their players. Back in the day, when I was covering the Lions, every defensive coordinator came in and said, we're going to be aggressive. We're going to be aggressive. And offensive coordinators, too, we're going to push that ball down the field. Then they watch these guys play 3 or 4 weeks and say, not quite. We got to back off. So did Aaron Glenn back off? It appeared that he did, because these guys were giving Seattle's wide receivers 8-10-yard cushions. So you can't do that with Kyle Pitts. You can't do that with the rest of the Atlanta Falcons. Yeah, they're going to run a lot of Bijan on you. But Bijan is not going to have a lot of success if you get Big Pooh out there on the defensive line. So, have confidence in your players, and they should be better.
Do you agree, Broder? Do you have another reason to be optimistic for today's game?
I do agree, and I think the defense is going to have a very good day. I think this might be one of the better coach games that Aaron Glenn has put together, maybe thus far in his career. I just think that defensive line is going to get to Desmond Ridder. They're going to do a decent job against the run because guys like Buggs are coming back with a vengeance. And in terms of being confident in the players, I want to see a little bit more Jack Campbell in this game. You know, we drafted him. He's an athlete, but he's also a run stopper. So this is the type of game that's built for him. But on the flip side, I think Ben Johnson and this offense are going to have their best game of the season so far. I could see them scoring more than 35 points and just really controlling the game, controlling that time of possession, which I believe they need to do. They need to get ahead early and then not let Atlanta be able to just ground and pound and control the clock. So I think we're going to see a couple touchdowns out of Jared Goff and a high-powered offense here in a couple hours.
Now, I'm going to piggyback off of Terry's first point that he made, in that the attitude going into last week's game was one that the Lions have really not had in their recent history of this positivity coming off of a huge win. Everyone's hyping up the Lions, and, it could have gotten to their heads a little bit. They could have, relaxed back and kind of said, we beat the Kansas City Chiefs. We can beat the Seahawks, no problem. Now they're back to their roots. Now they're going to prove to everybody that they are what they were made of in week one, and they're actually better. And they're going to get out there, and if they can get out there and prove that, I think that it's a solid win for the Lions. I think that if they can convince themselves to get back down to the roots, to show their grit, back to exactly what Dan Campbell preached all last year, don't get away from that. It ended up working, and that kind of overcoming adversity attitude is what the Lions have become very well known for. So this is the time to let that shine, and if they can, I think it's a win for them.
And let me quote the great philosopher Chauncey Phillips.
Chauncey.
If it ain't rough, it ain't right. So maybe the Lions have that same attitude.
There it is.
They can take it from Phillips.
Mm-hmm.
There
Just
you go.
a big shot.
We're going to get into our score predictions here, if everyone is ready for that. I'm going to kick things off. And I was back and forth at the beginning of this show because week one I picked the Lions to lose and they won. Week two I picked the Lions to win and they lose. But I'm going to go week three. The Lions are going to win 28-24.
Wow. That's a good game. That's a close game.
Yeah. I honestly do think it's going to be very close. After the performance last week, I can see this being a close game.
I like that.
I don't know why. Maybe I'm a knucklehead now, but I believe in this regime. I believe in this organization now.
We're all drinking the Kool-Aid.
I don't believe they're going to lose their first two home games.
I think it'd be really hard.
So I'm going to pick the Lions. Even though people are begging me to pick them to lose, I'm going to pick the Lions to win 27-24.
Okay. Another close score.
Look at that. Look at that. I'm going to go a little more high-powered offense for the Lions.
All right.
In a victory against the Falcons, they're going to win 38-21. It's going to be, 17 points? 38-21 Lions over the Falcons.
The confidence is overwhelming for Matt Broder. I like it.
I think
you're going to need 2 pick
different.
sixes for that to happen, pal.
Hey, but Kirby Joseph is going to get one, and maybe Brian Branch gets his second one. We'll see.
2 in 3 games.
Yeah.
That'd
He's
be a great start.
Brian Branch is a stud.
He is a stud. Well, that is all we have for you on this game day morning. Thanks so much for kicking it off with us. I'm Gabrielle D. Phillips, Matt Broder, Terry Foster, Woodward, and Main Street, your Lions Insider Show. Be sure to stick around for 9:30, the Woodward Sports pregame, and we will be seeing you on Tuesday for our game recap.
Now, coming to Woodward Sports, Woodward and Main Street, the Woodward Sports Network Detroit Lions show. Let's go! Catch Gabrielle D. Phillips, Matt Broder, and Terry Foster for all the latest news on your Detroit Lions every week. Only on the Woodward Sports Network YouTube channel and woodwardsports.com.